Part 56. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 551. Chapter 551 Return to the Ancestor. The blood of mythical beasts is basically golden. The more golden the color, the purer the bloodline of the beast. Wanner, they are fading. I don't know what the result will be yet. Mujukan told the truth. Yuan smiled with a smile on her face. Her guess was indeed correct. The blood-eating monster insects were changing, and it was possible that they would break the seal on them and turn into divine beasts. He. Very good. Originally, she had given up on the blood-devouring demonic insects and let them live in space for their old age. Who knew which pervert gave her such a great opportunity? At the moment, the pervert is depressed on the other side of this space. This space is actually used to hold prisoners of the divine world. One day he had nothing to do and ran to a place to practice swordsmanship. There is no divine power in this small world, only fairy energy and a power he doesn't know about. He can't practice it, so he can only pass the time by practicing swordsmanship when he has nothing to do. When he split a mountain with a sword, something strange suddenly floated out. That thing was able to attack him. Although it couldn't harm him, it was really interesting to look at these things. So after training these things, he used space magic to find a fairyland, set up a barrier, and sent people from a city here to fight with those things. Just looking for fun. But I didn't expect that some mythical beasts would come and devour these things today. He was thinking, are these things mutated from another force here? It's a pity that he doesn't have a divine beast to test it with, and he can't absorb it for his own use. As soon as the power enters the body seems to explode. What he is depressed about right now is why a mythical beast appears here. Could it be some of the divine guards guarding the prisoners? But it was wrong. He could definitely see that among the divine beasts, except for the strength of Soaring Snake, which he could not see, the other two dragons were very weak. There are also blood-eating monster insects with mortal veins. What kind of combination is this? It was because of this combination that he did not show up. He was not sure whose spiritual pet it was. He was a prisoner, but he stole things because of space magic and stole it from the powerful. He was captured and thrown here. It's really unlucky. There is no divine power here, and I can't go back no matter how much space magic I have. Well. So sad. Outside, the monks took the opportunity to restore their immortal power. The immortal energy in this space was not bad. It probably won't be long before those things attack again. The city lord has settled the monks and is looking for those spiritual pets everywhere. In the space, 2 months passed. The little snake woke up first. It ran to Yuan and showed off, "Master, my bloodline is so pure now, and there are signs of returning to my ancestors. Master, we will go out again then." Atavism. Yuan only heard these 2 words. Well, it's an atavism. Returning to their ancestors, no wonder the blood-eating demonic insects were able to break the shackles and break through the seal. If you were to return to your ancestors, the seal under that heaven would really not be of much use. It is recorded in jade slips that mythical beasts all have inherited magical powers, which are deeply rooted in blood and memory. The first generation of mythical beasts were basically bred by heaven and earth. The closer to the ancient prehistoric period, the early days of the universe, and the beginning of Hongmen, all the treasures of heaven, materials, and earth at that time were achieved innately. The mythical beasts naturally grow to a higher height by eating the innate treasures of heaven and earth. Moreover, because the race of mythical beasts should be born innately, their most important and powerful thing is always the body of the mythical beast. So, the purer the blood concentration, the stronger the body power that can be exerted, and the better the mastery of natal magical powers. Although these groups of mythical beasts are very powerful, the way of heaven is fair. Their offspring are rare and they do not even have the ability to mate with strong men of the same level of the same race. In order to ensure that the race is not extinct, other similar races can only be chosen to reproduce, so the bloodline becomes increasingly thin and mixed. Just like the little snake, the golden dragon, although they are mythical beasts, they have been reproduced and interbred for many generations, and their bloodline is not pure. There are bloodlines of other races in the body. To return to their ancestors is to purify their bloodline into 100% pure bloodline of their own. Of course, not all species can revert to their ancestors, only the species when they were first born can revert to their ancestors. Yuan and Mujukan did not expect to gain so much from such a trip. So Yuan decided to look for something that could allow them to return to their ancestors. But we have to wait until the blood-eating demonic insects wake up before going. The little snake should wake up first because its own blood is pure enough, and what it swallows can be quickly absorbed. They waited in the space while paying attention to what was going on outside. One day the monks in Yuchen suddenly disappeared. It should be sent away. She asked Zyajit to take a look. After Zyajit took a look, it turned out that Yuchen had been unblocked and was the same as before. This is exactly what that man did. After he knew that it was a good thing, he sent everyone away and studied it here. If this power could be used by him, would it be possible for him to get out? Yuan has been in space for 10 years. Fortunately, it is time in space, and it is only more than half a year outside. Dehei and Jinlong are indeed different from before. Not only are their bodies bigger, but their power is not at the same level as before. The biggest change is that of the blood-eating monster insects. Their bodies are now 2 meters long, and their bright red color has become darker, with a hint of purple. The blood all turned into a light golden color, no longer bright red. Yuan estimates that it is completely possible for them to break through to the 6th level of fairy beasts, and they will not die because of their bloodline. Now all the spiritual pets have come out of seclusion, and Yuan has also come out of space. She originally wanted to take things directly from the gate, but she couldn't take those mutated species yet. It was not because of Jimin, but because of her, so they came out to see what happened. This kind of thing that she can't take now is rare. She can even take things from the god realm, but she can't take these things. The two came out with a little snake. The little snake was very sensitive to the breath and flew them to the other end of the small world as soon as it came out. At the other end, the man had a splitting headache from thinking about it, and suddenly he saw the flying snake flying in his direction with a man and a woman. He flew out immediately. This is what came to devour him again. Who is coming? The little snake stopped flying and stopped 10 feet away from the man. Mujukan raised his hands and said, "Senior, who is the owner of those things? So what if it is, so what if it's not? We can't do anything, but you brought the monks from Yuchen here for no reason, why don't you just let it go? You threaten me." "Yes." The young man's tone is not small. "Can you beat it?" Mujukan pointed at the little snake. "Then what do you want to do?" "As you think, we took the things and left," Mujukan said simply. "Leave? Are you a space array mage?" The man asked 2 questions in a row. "No, can't we have a teleportation array?" Mujukan almost let it slip, but the man knew the key as soon as he heard it. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 552. Chapter 552 The God of Thieves. The man squinted at Mujukan, and suddenly thought, let these 2 people stay with him. Isn't he just bored staying here alone? Mujukan is also making up his mind. This person can teleport so many people here and teleport them away at will, as if he is playing. Then there is only one possibility. This person is a very experienced space array mage. I want him to teach me, but this is a very risky matter. At this time, the man suddenly said, "It is not impossible for you to want these things, but I want you to stay here with me for 1,000 years. Otherwise, I will not give it to you even if I destroy it. 1,000 years, isn't it too long? Mujukin was delighted. He could come with whatever he wanted. He would stay with him for 1,000 years, no matter what, he would still have to grind out something. 10,000 years, the man said quietly. Okay, don't add it. It's 1,000 years, right? We'll stay with you. Mujukin had a bitter face, as if he had suffered a big loss. Yuan looked at it and felt funny in her heart. It was quite worth it to have another chance to learn space magic in 1,000 years. Then you come down, take that one away, and dig a cave for yourself over there. The man pointed at the little snake, intending for them to put it away, and pointed to a place at the foot of the mountain not far from his cave. The two nodded and flew down to the ground. The little snake would definitely not take it away, and it flew away on its own as soon as they got off. The man just curled his lips at the little snake and flew into his cave without opening the formation. Yuan and the others followed the man's instructions and opened a cave with 5 rooms and 1 living room. They have 1 room for themselves, 1 for little snakes, 1 for big blacks, 1 for golden dragons, and 1 for blood-eating monsters. As soon as it was done, Yuan released them all. Dehei and Jinlong are both human beings, and they help in various ways when they come out. Yuan simply threw a fairy beast to them and asked them to barbecue. The chosen place was a garden built by Yuan outside the cave. Yuan moved another set of tables and chairs in the space outside, and then placed all the fairy wine she brewed on the table. Well, it smells good. The man shrugged his nose in the cave and took a few deep breaths. You are already an immortal and you are still greedy for this food and drink. The man still shook his head. Not long after the smell of meat came out, there was a strong aroma of wine. Now he could no longer calm down and appeared on Yuan's table in a flash. No matter how big or small you are, you don't even call me old man when you have something to eat. He picked up a pot of wine and drank it without saying a word, and also cursed others. Yuan just smiled. This person actually has an old naughty temperament. This kind of person is the easiest to get along with. However, when I thought about this man bringing people from Yuchin and killing many people, I didn't have much change in my mind towards him. Anyway, they get what they want and leave. Senior, what's your name? Yuan asked as she saw him drinking a bottle of wine, then handed him another bottle. What is your name? They all call me a thief of gods. The god of thieves. Yuan wanted to cover her space tightly. Forget it, let's call you Senior. My name is Yuan, and my husband is Mujukin. Oh, girl, do you really have a teleportation array to go back? No. The god of thieves stared at them both with clear eyes. You want to learn my space technique? Huh, I'm not happy being deceived by you two little brats, so don't even think about it. The god of thieves dropped the wine bottle and patted his and returned. Yuan and the two looked at each other and smiled. It doesn't matter, there's a long way to go. The thief god didn't come out again for 10 days in a row, and the two of them were not in a hurry. They practiced when they had nothing to do. During Yuan's practice, she was able to absorb the power that made the little snakes return to their ancestors, which shocked her. I'm not a mythical beast, am I? Yuan swallowed, thinking of Xiao Zi saying that she had no father, no mother, no relatives, no friends. It can't really be a person who transformed into some mythical beast. Yuan's back felt numb when she thought of her hairy appearance. However, she still looked inside and found that her body had not changed, so she breathed a sigh of relief. That kind of power seemed very powerful, and she didn't know what it was. The known powers include star power, divine power, fairy power, spiritual power, and mysterious power. Apart from these, she doesn't know what other powers there are. I guess we have to wait until the little snakes successfully return to their ancestors and have inherited memories to see if they know. After practicing, Yuan absorbed it as usual. She found that after absorbing that power, not only did her strength become stronger, but her cultivation level also increased rapidly. This surprised her so much that she couldn't stop practicing until the god of thieves came to her door. "You two are really saying that you are accompanying me and practicing on your own?" The god of thieves puffed his beard and glared. "Senior, if you don't come out, how can we accompany you?" "I can't come out now." "Yuan." "Mujukan." The two of them placed fairy fruits and fairy wine in the small yard. The god of thieves tasted one fairy fruit and threw it aside, just drinking. Yuan saw that he drank 2 more pots, so she asked for something to say. "Senior, why are you here alone?" The god of thieves glanced at her. "You think I like being here because they didn't throw me here? Oh, he should be imprisoned here, but he doesn't know where he came from, the god realm. Senior, why don't you find a way to get out?" "Get out? There is no divine power here. Could it be that I go to the fairy world?" The god of thieves grunted twice. As expected, she came from the divine realm. Fortunately, she didn't bring anything with divine power out. "That's right, that senior is really pitiful who can be so cruel. It's okay to throw in a few more people to accompany you, it won't be so boring," Yuan said seriously, holding her chin. The god of thieves narrowed his eyes and said with a bad smile, "You guys are here, aren't you?" Yuan gave him a big look. "Us? You'd better not have any ideas about us. Sooner or later, we will return to the fairy world and ascend to the divine world." "Hey, I didn't say I would keep you here." The god of thieves suddenly grabbed Mujukan and returned to his cave. At the same time, he threw a token to her and activated the formation. Yuan took the token and raised her lips with a smile. He called the little snake back, took the other spiritual pets, came to the split mountain, and threw the token up. The token immediately shot out a stream of immortal power on the barrier, and an opening opened in the barrier. When the spirits saw it, they immediately flew in. "Little snake, remember to take that thing out." The little snake replied to her with just one word and rushed in impatiently. After entering, the barrier is closed. Yuan came back to continue cultivating. "I believe that if they stay there for 1,000 years and come out after 1,000 years, they will almost return to their ancestors. The god of thieves' cave has not been opened for a year. Yuan is about to advance, so he has to go back to the fairy world to advance and then come back." Coming back this time, Yuan brought both treasures with her, along with the remaining blood-eating monster insects and mythical beasts from Yuhairan and the others. After returning, they all were thrown in. Those who could return to their ancestors should return. If they could not return, there was nothing they could do. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 553. Chapter 553. This old man is very bad. It wasn't until 10 years later that the thief god stretched his legs and came out, but Mujukan didn't come out. Yuan quickly swept her consciousness and saw that Mujukan was looking at things carefully. "What are you looking at? Do you think I killed him?" "I can't bear to be my disciple," the thief god said angrily. Yuan raised the corners of her mouth and looked like a fool. "Haha, Mujukan did a good job." Yes, master, what do you want to eat or drink? I'll take care of it right away," Yuan immediately asked with a flattering smile. "Come on, master, you are the one calling me this little girl, come and get me 2 jugs of wine, I'm dying of thirst." The god of thieves had a look of disgust on his face, but the look in his eyes still betrayed him, telling his master that the old man was probably already happy in his heart. "Okay, master, please sit down, I have something good for you to try today," Yuan said as she waved out a jar of wine, and the thief god grabbed it and opened it eagerly. Not bad, the girl is interested." The god of thieves drained the jar of wine in one gulp. Ah, comfortable and quenching thirst. Yuan. Her wine was to quench his thirst. Girl, are there any more? Look at me working so hard. Here, stop complaining, you can drink the fairy wine I work so hard to brew as water. Yuan Bei glanced at him and threw a jar at him. Hee, I've been here so much that my mouth has turned pale, I can't taste it as wine, it's normal. The thief god laughed a few times and drank again. If he drank as hard as he did, Yuan estimated that her wine would soon run out. However, after drinking these fairy wines, she dare not give him the ones with divine power behind them. It depends on what Mujukan says. Having quenched her thirst, the god of thieves did not hesitate to teach her some magical skills. Yuan's magical skills improved greatly thanks to his teachings. Girl, in fact, you should also practice your wood magic as long as you find a demon plant contract with strong attack power, and then use it to cast it. The wood magic is no less powerful than other magics. The god of thieves saw that she had wood spiritual roots but did not use wood magic, so he kindly reminded her. Each magical spell, and even the divine spell in the future, has an additional means of protection. Wooden magical spells can be used in conjunction with complementary items, so it is not useless. A demon plant. That's right, although demonic plants can become immortal and divine plants are rare, there are still some you can pay attention to it in the future, girl. Okay, thank you master for the tip, Yuan nodded. She didn't worry about the wood system before. If this was the case, she would have to go to the god realm to find it. Seeing that she took it to heart, the god of thieves drank 2 more jars of wine and went back to retreat. 100 years have passed by in a hurry, and Yuan's cultivation has reached the middle stage of immortality, while Mujukan is still in retreat. Occasionally, only the god of thieves comes out to hang out. Every time he comes out to hang out, he drinks several bottles of wine from her and teaches her some cultivation skills. Girl, I see your cultivation has advanced so quickly, what are you doing? The thief god is surprised that the immortal energy here is not strong, and this girl does not practice in seclusion every day, so how can she advance so fast? Yuan was wondering whether to tell him that she could absorb that power. It is strange to say that even if she can absorb it for her own use, the 2 treasures cannot. But her body has not mutated except for getting stronger and stronger. Master, do you feel the unknown power in the immortal energy? The thief god's eyes lit up. Can the girl absorb it? Girl, you are such a freak, I'm afraid you are the only one in the world who can absorb and cultivate, no wonder. He has researched it and found that except for the beast race and demonic plants that can absorb it, the human race cannot absorb it at all. That power was very similar to one of the energy that overflowed after being damaged in ancient times. He didn't know what it was specifically. This unknown small world was probably formed because of that thing. Yuan just smiled. Her ability to absorb and practice was all due to her star art. Liang Bao can still absorb some points when practicing Galaxy Ju. In the next 100 years, Yuan entered the barrier to practice, and her cultivation progressed rapidly. She reached the perfect perfection of heavenly immortality in one fell swoop, and could break through to true immortality at any time. There was enough time, and Yuan spent another 100 years breaking through to become a true immortal. At this rate, she can reach the level of immortal king in 1,000 years. On this day, Yuan finished practicing and had nothing to do, so she took a look at the blood-eating demonic insects. Except for their family of 4, which were more numerous, Yu Heiran and the others had very few left. The blood-devouring monster insects today are completely different species from those hundreds of years ago. They have faded into a purple-gold color, are 1 foot long and 3 feet thick, and their 2 tentacles are also 3 feet long. The eyes that used to be red turned into purple pupils. The blood is also purple gold. Had she not been familiar with them, it would have been difficult to associate them with the same appearance as the previous toothpicks, thinking that they were them. Yuan also doesn't know what kind of sensation these spiritual pets will cause when they are released in the future. Use it as little as possible and only use it as a last resort. Yuan could only think like this. The family of four still has space to protect them, but Yu Heiran and the others do not. Once anyone recognizes them, they will definitely be robbed and hunted down. Yuan was thinking about it and unknowingly went to the unknown object underground. This is a piece of something that is more than 10 feet in size, a shiny white object that is neither stone nor jade, and the power is still emanating from it. Yuan tried it, but even the divine sword couldn't break off a small piece. If we collect them all now, the spirits will still be sleeping. If we collect them, we will definitely interrupt them. Evolution will undo all previous efforts. The days flew by, and 1,000 years passed quickly. The god of thieves finally released Mujukan. He has not practiced much in 1,000 years, and the aura on his body has reached the edge of breakthrough, and it is impossible not to leave. The spiritual pets in the enchantment had woken up 100 years ago, and those who should be sent back were all sent back. Even the two treasures returned to the fairy world at that time. She and Mujukan's spiritual pets were the only ones in the space. Oh, there's that extra piece. Yuan couldn't bear to part with that treasure, since the old man who stole the wouldn't have any use for it anyway. Waner, I want to discuss something with you. Yuan frowned. You want me to take your master with me? Mujukan nodded. He was a bit pushy, but his master taught him a lot and treated him really well. But Yuan hesitated. Except for family members, no outsider had ever entered the space matter, but this was the first time Mujukan begged him. Mujukan patted her back and said, Waner, I can guarantee that master will not have bad intentions. I guess master already knows that you have space treasures. What you have done in these years, especially if you return to the immortal realm and make a breakthrough, there's nothing he doesn't know about it. He is a god-level space array mage. There will be no teleportation waves when you return to the fairy world. He knows this very well. Yuan gritted her teeth. This old man was so bad that he pretended not to know even if he knew it. Okay, let him get ready, and we'll leave now. You can't hold it back with your cultivation. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 554. Chapter 554, First Hearing about Emperor Tianyan. It is estimated that Mujukan's cultivation level is about to break through, and that old man from the God of Thieves has planned it. Here, I'm here, disciple, girl, hey hey. Before Mujukan could shout, the God of Thieves popped out. Yuan rolled her eyes at him, this old naughty boy. Her consciousness led them into the space. Hey, girl, it's true, you're hiding it from me and relying on my skills. With your skills, you have no problem stealing my things. No, no, how could it be, how could I steal? Minna. The God of Thieves is already rubbing his hands and wandering around. Tisk tisk tisk, little girl, there are so many good things here that I can't use, humph, I'm not happy anymore. The God of Thieves was so angry that his beard stood up and up. He wanted to stretch out his hand to pluck it out, but he retracted it halfway. Well, the disciple said that stealing is a bad habit. Forget it, for the sake of his disciple, he won't steal. Whoops. The little snake suddenly appeared in front of him and said contemptuously, Old man, you are very old and have not yet learned enough. Don't steal my master's things, or I will eat you. No, didn't you stop when you didn't see me? The God of Thieves immediately gave in when he saw the little snake. He spread his hands out to show the little snake. He is really a little afraid of those spiritual pets. Damn, they will swallow up those things, they are all so powerful that there is no reason for them. He stayed there for so many years and gained nothing at all. What bad luck! However, after accepting a disciple with incredible qualifications, I no longer feel bad luck. Over there, Yuan and Mujukan return to the wooden house, and she quickly asks Zyajia to take them back to the fairy world. Waner, your cultivation level is higher than mine. Mujukan hugged her and kissed her constantly. He felt like dying after not seeing her for so long. In 1,000 years, she was promoted from a heavenly immortal to an immortal king, and she was afraid that only she could do it in the entire world of immortality. Yuan couldn't stand being kissed by him, so she let him go. Mujukan had eaten and drank enough before leaving the space to go through the tribulation. Yuan came out with a small snake and a golden dragon to protect him. 10 days later, Mujukan returned to space after overcoming the tribulation to consolidate his cultivation. In the space, the god of thieves smacked his lips while drinking the magical wine brewed by Yuan, while squinting at her. Why do you, old man, look at me like this? Like, really like? Yuan laughed and asked, who does it look like? The wife of Emperor Tianyan of the God realm. When I saw you, I thought I had seen you somewhere before. After that, I was busy teaching space magic and forgot about it, but now it really looks like it. Yuan's face darkened. Master, did you read that correctly? How old am I? The thief god rolled his eyes at her. Where are you thinking? Emperor Tianyan and his wife disappeared 100,000 years ago. Also missing with them was their daughter. But your age is not suitable. You are hers. As for a daughter, she is at least 100,000 years old. If you don't even have this 10,000 years, are you her granddaughter? Granddaughter? Will the remaining mother of the earth be the daughter of Emperor Tianyan? Neither does Fengxi. To be honest, she no longer feels the same blood connection between mother and daughter towards Yuma and Fengxi. One is the soul mother and daughter, and the other is the body mother and daughter, but as the cultivation level gets higher, the feeling becomes weaker. Yuan narrowed her eyes and asked, Master, do you know their daughter? I don't know. I have only met Emperor Tianyan and his wife once. The Lord God held a birthday banquet and invited gods from all over the world. I was lucky enough to meet him at that time. The thief god shook his head, as if thinking about that person and that person. A grand occasion. How old is their daughter? She thought she should be the daughter of Emperor Tianyan. When she heard their names, she felt inexplicably uncomfortable. She wanted to know more about them. She must be an adult, right? The thief god was not sure because few people had seen their daughter. Oh, Master, can you tell me more about them? You don't think you are their daughter, do you? The god of thieves looked at her with strange eyes. Unclear. You don't know yet and you still ask. If you don't say it, don't drink from me anymore. Yuan snatched the unfinished wine jar from the god of thieves' hand and said angrily. Hey, you girl, sit down, listen to me, why are you grabbing the wine? The god of thieves grabbed it and drank it in several sips before sitting down. You girl, you have such a bad temper, sit down if you want to listen. Listen up, I will only say this once. In the God realm, it is managed by the Lord God. There are 5 emperors below. One of them is Emperor Tianyan. He is in charge of the East God territory. God King Tianchen is in charge of the South God territory. God King Tianyu is in charge of the West God territory, and God Tiankai is in charge of the North God territory. There is another demon king in charge of the demon realm. Among the great emperors, Emperor Tianyan is the strongest and can compete with the Lord God. In fact, it doesn't matter. Once your strength reaches that level, it's almost the same. The problem lies with Emperor Tianyan's wife. Mrs Yaji was a great beauty in the God realm at that time. Both the Lord God and Tianyan liked her, and later she chose Emperor Tianyan. Things became simpler later on. Their daughter was born and later disappeared. These are secrets known to all the gods. Yuan did not say anything after hearing this. There was a voice in her heart that seemed to tell her that she must find out the truth of the matter. It's not as simple as the god of thieves said. Your Lord God, right? She can take care of that Lord God, but not this one. Girl, what are you thinking about? Seeing her silence, the thief god pursed his lips. Master, do you want to return to the god realm? Girl, you are asking me this, I can't even dream about it, so what, do you still have the ability to go to the god realm? As long as you want it, it can be done. Yuan really wants to send the god of thieves back to the god realm and ask him to help find out what happened back then. Even if she stole the property of Lord God, she might not be able to get the news. At least find out whether Emperor Tianyan and his wife are dead. Girl, do you want me to help you investigate the affairs of Emperor Tianyan and his wife? Yuan nodded. The thief god smiled bitterly. Girl, you think too highly of me. I am just a god king, and I am not on the same level as them. How can I check? In the god realm, it is actually the same everywhere. There are also those who cannot cultivate. People with low cultivation and high cultivation, such as the god emperor, are very rare existences. Let alone the emperor and the Lord God who are above us. Those are far away from us. Inaccessible existence. I'm afraid I'll disappoint the girl. It's okay. This matter can't be rushed. We'll check it out when we have the chance. Yuan comforted the god of thieves in turn. There was another thing she didn't say, which was that she didn't want him to stay in her space for a long time. Although the thief god has never coveted her space, she just doesn't like too many people in her space. Yu Heiran and the others have no choice. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 555. Chapter 555 Dead Sea. Thief God, okay then, when will you send me back? The god of thieves immediately became energetic. It's about time, please wait. Oh well. He thought he could go back soon, so he was so happy. Yuan ignored him and entered the wooden house, then sat down cross-legged and asked Xiaoji to find the god realm. Last time I found the god realm in Xiaja, so this time I went directly there. Find a place where no one is around. Okay, master, wait a moment. It didn't take long for Xiaja to find a no man's land. Yuan's consciousness came out, she looked around, and immediately moved the thief god out. As soon as the thief god appeared, after taking a deep breath, he looked up to the sky and laughed, ha ha ha, I'm back, you sons of turtles, please wash your necks, ha ha ha, girl, thank you. The god of thieves shouted, and with a flash of his body, he disappeared. Yuan. What a old man. As soon as the thief left, Yuan hurriedly stepped into the space. The moment she appeared, the mythical beast approached her. After returning to space, she asked Xiaja to look for the god. The place where the gods live must be the tallest, largest, and most arrogant palace in the world. Unfortunately, Xiaja was not so lucky this time, and Yuan gave up after failing to find it. It's better to go back and practice obediently now, the divine world is not something she can defend yet. Back in the fairy world, Mujukan also consolidated his cultivation, and the two of them left the space to continue their training. Now that the two of them have gained some strength, they also go exploring in dangerous places. On this day, the two of them joined an expedition team to explore the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is located in the southern part of the Nangxian realm. It would take 7 days for a group of people to fly there directly. Everyone unanimously decided to take the teleportation array there. 1 day later, a group of 7 people stood on the edge of the Dead Sea. The so-called Dead Sea does not mean that there is nothing in it, but that it has everything. The sea beasts in the sea are extremely ferocious, as if they are in a state of returning to their ancestors. People who come here to hunt sea beasts don't have a few brushes to kill themselves. The Dead Sea is named after this. This shows how dangerous the Dead Sea is. The strongest among the 7 of them is the leader, Huaxianren, a true immortal. The two of them have their cultivation levels in the middle stage of the immortals, neither high nor low. The mission I accepted this time in the Sangxian Alliance was to explore an ancient immortal cave in the depths of the Dead Sea. The fairy cave is said to be on an isolated island, and there is a top-quality fairy flag in it. It is said that the Old Man of Life and Death was damaged after he shielded him from the Calamity Thunder when he ascended, but it was not completely destroyed. The Old Man of Life and Death failed to withstand the Calamity Thunder at that moment, and died under the Calamity Thunder. Since the owner of the Flag of Life and Death died, the spirit of the Flag of Life and Death took the flag back to the cave of the Old Man of Life and Death to repair it. Until now, no one has been able to successfully bring out the Flag of Life and Death. The Flag of Life and Death was originally a pair with the Yin and Yang flag. When separated, they are the best immortal weapons. When combined, they can be arranged into a 2 Yin and Yang array. This formation has one side of Yin and one side of Yang. If an immortal is trapped in this formation and cannot escape, he will be tortured by the illusion of two extremes of Yin and Yang until he becomes a mummy. The Rogue Cultivator Alliance only has the Yin and Yang flag, but lacks the Life and Death flag. Yu and Wan joined the team not because they were interested in the flag, but because they came to the Dead Sea to experience it. They had rarely fought against sea beasts. On the other hand, they also want to see if the legendary sea beasts in the Dead Sea, like the little snakes, swallowed the mysterious power and returned to their ancestors. If this is the case, these sea beasts will definitely be a delicious meal for spiritual pets. It is only by devouring such food that their strength increases quickly. The 7 people looked at the calm sea, but actually there was a murderous intention hidden underneath. "Captain, are we taking a spaceship or what?" a fairy asked Changhua Immortal. Changhua Immortal's eyes were dark, and he spoke after a while, "There are 7 of us, so let's take a spaceship." As he spoke, he threw out a palm-sized spaceship. A burst of immortal power was injected into it, and the spacecraft swelled in the wind. When there were 7 people, he stopped and then took the lead in flying onto the spacecraft. The other 4 people quickly flew up, and Yuan flew up last. After getting on the boat, Immortal Changhua piloted the spacecraft and flew towards the depths of the sea. "Everyone, please pay attention. If you encounter a sea monster attack, the 6 of you will divide the work and cooperate." After traveling for almost 1,000 miles, Immortal Changhua said to everyone. 6 people responded in unison. Yuan also paid attention to the movement in the sea. This mid-grade immortal spaceship was absolutely vulnerable to a powerful sea beast, and she didn't know how the 5 of them came to take on such a dangerous mission. Is it really that difficult to earn immortal stones? It is true to the saying, people die for wealth and birds die for food. If she didn't have space and immortal stones to practice, she wouldn't be able to take on such a life-threatening task. "My life is gone, and it is useless to earn fairy stones. I just work for others." "Wanner, pay attention, that female fairy has been sizing you up at this time," Mujukan sent a message to her. "Why are you looking at me?" Yuan turned around sharply, and sure enough, she met the fairy's scrutinizing eyes. The female fairy immediately looked sideways. Yuan is suspicious. Is she going to kill people and seize the treasure? But she also paid attention. "Careful." At this moment, a column of water more than 10 feet thick suddenly burst out of the sea and hit the spacecraft. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the water column hit the protective cover of the spacecraft. The protective cover ruptured and the spacecraft shook violently. Changhua Immortal immediately used a burst of immortal power to stabilize the spacecraft. The 6 people attacked the water column at the same time, scattering the water column. Boom boom boom. The shot scattered, and like a pot exploding on the sea, water columns shot up into the sky, instantly surrounding the spacecraft. Huge sea beasts of different types and sizes flew out of the sea at the same time. The people on the boat, except Yuan, immediately put a protective shield on themselves. When the female fairy saw Yuan looking at the sea beast like this, she thought she was afraid, and she couldn't help but sneer at the corners of her lips. Yuan looked at the extremely huge sea beast, with a smile on her lips, and glanced at Mujukan. Mujukan nodded. Those 5 people didn't know what they were doing. They were still flirting while being surrounded by sea beasts. You two, protect yourselves, Changhua Immortal reminded. Thank you for reminding us, we are about to start. Mujukan raised his hand towards Immortal Changhua and winked at Yuan. The two of them waved their divine swords and immediately pounced on the sea beast. Yuan attacked a sea beast that looked like a turtle. She poured her magical power into the divine sword and swung it down with all her strength. Click! The divine sword struck the turtle beast's back, and the shell broke instantly. The turtle beast was in pain and sank into the water with a mournful cry. Yuan waved her hand, and a group of blood-eating monster insects caught up with her at a speed faster than lightning. At the same moment, Mujukan cut off the head of a giant shark. The giant shark also fell straight down. Immediately, a blood-eating demonic insect flew over to catch it. The people on the spaceship and the sea beasts surrounding them were stunned by the sudden attack from the two of them. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 556. Chapter 556 Undersea Formation. The two men, who are not outstanding in strength, are fierce. Changhua Immortal immediately commanded the other 4 people to attack quickly, and also summoned their respective spiritual pets. It is bound to break out of the encirclement. The purpose of those sea beasts is to round them up. With those 2 fierce men, Immortal Changhua was sure to break out of the encirclement. Seeing that their encirclement was broken, the sea beasts also tried their best to fight with the human monks. The fight was less than half a stick of incense, and the sea beasts suffered heavy losses. The sea beasts were thinking of retreating, wondering why the human monks who came this time were so ferocious, and the blood-eating monster insects were too ferocious. A dragon looked up to the sky and roared, and suddenly a dozen powerful sea beasts flew out from the sea, with strength comparable to that of the immortal king. Yuan caught a glimpse, and with a flick of her consciousness, she threw out the small snake, the golden dragon. When Changhua Immortal saw the dozen powerful sea beasts rushing out of the sea, he sighed that he was going to die here. Just after he finished sighing, he saw 3 more huge fairy beasts. He could only identify them as fairy beasts with his strength, and his heart returned to his stomach. I saw such a ferocious sea beast being swallowed alive by the 2 dragons and 1 snake. Ah, and those. Before she could recover from the shock, the fairy pointed at the blood-eating monster insects flying out of the water and screamed. What is it? They don't even know what species it is. At this moment, the bodies of the blood-eating worms are kept at 1 foot, which is convenient for them to move. I saw about 800 purple gold insects rushing straight into the sky like insect chrysalises toward the dozen or so 6th-order sea beasts. The body of the blood-devouring demonic insect rushing in front suddenly lengthened, and the sea beast was swept away with a flick of its long tail. They rolled them up, then opened their big mouths and sucked them in, and a huge sea beast entered their stomachs. That movement was done in one go, without any fuss. There are more than 800 blood-devouring demonic insects. There are not enough sea beasts in the sky for them to share. There are also 3 small snakes. As a last resort, the blood-devouring monsters voluntarily separated, letting the hungry ones devour them, while the full ones flew to the side and stared at the sea. As long as there was a sea monster emerging, the blood-devouring monsters would immediately fly over. This scene made Yuan and Mujukan both surprised. They didn't know that the blood-eating demonic insects could be so ferocious. No wonder God wants to punish them. If there is no one to control these more than 800, they dare not imagine that there are any living creatures in this fairy land. Changhua Immortal and others were even more stunned. When the fairy looked at Yuan again, his eyes no longer had the same consideration as before. She looked at Yuan for no other reason. In fact, her life was approaching and she was about to die. She could not break through in cultivation, so she wanted to find someone to take her away. She noticed Yuan when she was in the Loose Cultivator Alliance and saw that her cultivation level was suitable. What made her even more satisfied was Yuan's appearance and a handsome man like Mujukan. She could kill two birds with one stone, so she signed up and followed. But when these two people fought with the ferocious beast, she realized that their cultivation level was much higher than hers. And there are such awesome spiritual pets. She wanted to die immediately before she dared to take advantage of others. The battle ended with the people on the spaceship stunned. The two collected their spiritual pets and returned to the spacecraft. Well, two seniors, thank you very much. Changhua Immortal's voice was trembling. Thank you two seniors, the other four people also thanked them. No problem, let's go. Mujukan waved his hand. Changhua Immortal quickly took up the spaceship and flew towards the inland sea. After flying 10,000 miles, another sea beast attacked, and Yuan directly threw out the spiritual pets. There is no need for them to take action at all. Yuan asked them to come out, mainly because their appetite is too big now and they want to eat at every turn. They want to eat even more when they see the sea beasts in the sea. Yuan dared to let them out so boldly, even though these sea beasts were similar in nature to it. It's just that their spiritual pets have returned to their ancestors, and these sea beasts are just the beginning, but their strength is incredible. Very ferocious. Spiritual pets opened the way and escorted the ship, and the spaceship arrived at an island area 7 days later. There are thousands of islands of various sizes here. Changhua Immortal, are you here? Changhua Immortal said tremblingly, Senior, yes. Then you all go and find it? As he said that, Mujukan asked Jin Long to follow them. He and Yuan took their spiritual pets and sneaked under the island. The deeper you go, the stronger the power becomes, and Yuan suspects that the thing is in this area. She didn't want to take it, but to take a look and let the spiritual pets hunt for food. The big lump in the space is enough for them to absorb. When the two of them got into the sea, they hid themselves and dived into the water. When some sea beasts noticed that the water was moving, some used their spiritual consciousness to check it out. They saw that there was only water moving but nothing, so some sea beasts came over to see for themselves what was so weird. Poor, I didn't take it seriously and came to deliver the food. The deeper the two of them dive, the stronger the force becomes. The sea beasts below were also stronger, causing the spiritual pets to cheer. Yuan rolled her eyes at them, as if she had just been released from prison and had never eaten meat. The two simply stopped looking and watched the competition between them. 1 day later, the golden dragon also came. He said that after helping those people find the flag of life and death, he sent them out of the inland sea with one tail. Yuan gave him a thumbs up, awesome. Master, there are formation fluctuations down there. The little snake flew over and said to Yuan. Is there a formation? Mujukan, let's go over and see who is setting up the formation on the bottom of the sea. With that said, Yuan pulled Mujukan to sit on the little snake's back, and the little snake dived towards the bottom of the sea with a sudden movement. The little snake came to a stop in front of a brilliant formation that was opening. For the matter of formation, Mujukan should be the one to deal with. The formation that could withstand the pressure of the seabed was extraordinary, and Mujukan couldn't hold it any longer. He flew over early, just in time to test the level of his formation. It is not in vain to steal God's teachings for thousands of years. Mujukan solved the formation while Yuan watched from the side. I saw him hit a line of immortal power here and there, and with less than a stick of incense, a hole was opened in the formation. Wanner, follow me. As he said that, Mujukan ducked in and Yuan followed. Wan'er, follow my footsteps and don't make any mistakes, remember this. Well, remember. Mujukan was twisting and turning in front of him, and Yuan followed step by step. Soon, the two of them turned out of the formation. As soon as the formation came out, the formation closed and returned to the original state. What appeared in front of the two people at this time was either a cave or a very large thing that was exactly the same as the one in Yuan's space. The difference is that there is a cave on this big lump. There is no one in the cave. The two of them entered the cave holding hands. In the main hall of the cave, there was a table, and the ones on the pile were taken from the place. There is also a cup of tea on the table. There is still tea in the cup, and it is still smelling of fairy. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 557. Chapter 557. Someone is coming. Yuan took a deep breath of the strong mysterious power before walking into the hall. There is nothing else in the hall except this table and a futon in front of the table. Yuan and the others looked at the two rooms on the left and right. The elixirs grown in one room had already returned to their ancestors. There was a bed and a bookshelf in the other room, with some bottles and jars on it. Yuan stepped forward, but before her hands touched them, the bottles and jars instantly turned into ashes. How long has this cave been in existence? The two of them sighed. What Mujukan sighed was the person who arranged the formation and the formation. Absolutely no one in the immortal world can lay out this 9-palace prison lock formation with the fairy veins under the sea as the formation eyes. The purpose of the man's arrangement of this 9-palace prison lock formation was to lock this huge stone full of mysterious power and the power it exuded. Otherwise, the immortal beasts in the world of cultivating immortals are afraid that all of them will return to their ancestors, and the world of immortals will definitely be in chaos. Perhaps there is still an open question as to whether humans exist in the fairy world. But why didn't the person who set up the formation take this thing away? But judging from the teapot and teacups placed on the table in the hall, it was obvious that the man was drinking tea before he left. A sudden emergency must have forced him to leave, and he has not returned until now. Thinking that this thing cannot be left here like this, he asked Yuan, "Wan'er, can you take this thing?" Yuan nodded. She just wanted to put this thing into the space and use it as her training room. This thing seems to be tailor-made for her. Okay, let Wan'er take it away first. After taking it, this formation will also break it, leaving it here to consume the immortal veins. Yuan immediately released his spiritual consciousness to wrap the thing, and then with a movement of his spiritual consciousness, the thing disappeared. In the space, Yuan sat on the futon in the hall and meditated. She just spent a lot of her consciousness, and this thing is bigger than the one in the small world. Mujukan put up an isolation formation, which was the same as the previous one, to prevent the power from spreading all over the space. After Yuan recovered, she took Mujukan out of the space to break the formation. Then they flew out of the sea and found an island to wait for their spiritual pets. 1 month later, the blood-devouring demonic insects ushered in a thunder disaster. More than 800, chopping the sky so hard that the hands of the male thunder and lightning are weak. The following day He and Jinlong were much easier. In the space, Yuan is studying the ancestral elixirs in the room. The essence of the elixirs is very different from the current elixirs. They are basically two different varieties. But the power contained in those elixirs is unmatched by current elixirs, not even the elixirs produced in her space. That violent medicine is enough to explode the monk's meridians. Even she couldn't bear the power of the medicine. But if she can absorb one, her cultivation will definitely advance to a higher level. Yuan is having a headache right now. Only she and her spiritual pets can take these elixirs, not Mujukan and her 2 sons. If she takes it, her cultivation level will soon reach that of an immortal lord and she will ascend to the god realm. It will be a long time before she is separated from them again. In the end, Yuan decided to give them all to the blood-devouring monster insects and the golden dragon, so that they could be directly promoted to the 9th level of strength. After making a decision, she took the time to talk to Mujukan about it. Mujukan heard this and said, Waner can leave a dozen of them just in case, and let them eat the rest. Those elixirs that have already matured are of no use keeping them. It's better to benefit from a spiritual pet. Oh well. According to Mujukan's instructions, Yuan left 15 plants and packed them in jade boxes. After planting a batch of them again, she took back the spiritual pets and gave each of them a fairy medicine plant. All went into retreat. The two of them also retreated on the island. On this day, the two of them were preparing to leave seclusion when suddenly several powerful auras approached them. The two men immediately summoned the divine sword and stared at the person coming. After a few piercing sounds, 5 figures landed 10 feet away from the two of them. My lord, that's the two of them. The person who spoke was the fairy who went on the mission with them before. Haha, you have good vision, but after the matter is done, you have to stay with me. A rough immortal next to the female fairy touched the fairy's face and said with a bad smile. At the same time, he waved his hand and set up a barrier to cover a group of people inside. The rugged immortal looked at Yuan again with a vulgar look on his face. Mujukan and Yuan didn't know where these people came from, so they had to take a look first. The rough immortal is the divine emperor, and the other 3 are all divine sects, so they are quite skillful. Hey, you two, I heard that you have a powerful spiritual pet. If you obediently hand over your spiritual pet, hey, you beauty can serve me, and you can raise a spiritual pet for me. The rugged immortal emperor pointed at the two of them and said without shame. Sir, you promised the slave family, what's wrong? The female fairy asked anxiously after hearing what the rough fairy emperor said. The rugged immortal emperor glanced at her indifferently and said displeasedly, I want you to comment on what decision I have made. Just go away. The female fairy was frightened by his fierce look, so she shut her mouth and stood aside obediently. However, the eyes he looked at Yuan were full of unwillingness. Yuan looked at them quietly. They really came for their spiritual pets. I wonder what these people are based on? Little Snake's strength is something that even the god of thieves wouldn't dare to surpass, that's all. Yuan glanced at the female fairy, her eyes were dark. This woman was making plans for her. But no matter what the idea was, if she brought people to look for trouble with them today, the fairy would not be able to stay. Her consciousness flashed, and the little snake appeared in front of them. Little Snake, those people said they would hand you over to them, but the master has given you to them. The little snake spit out its long core, just these few weaklings. The little snake squinted its triangular eyes and smiled. It's really too much for one's abilities. Master, don't worry, these are not enough for me to take a bite. Speaking, it flew in front of those people, and with a movement of consciousness, it broke the barrier created by the people, and created a barrier of its own. When the rugged immortal saw the little snake, he was ecstatic. Sure enough, the little girl didn't lie to him. But the little snake easily broke his barrier, and when it was re-established, he was horrified. Defense! He shouted, and several others, including the female fairy, immediately put up a defensive shield on their bodies and attacked the little snake at the same time. Those attacks fell on the little snake, as if it were being tickled. The little snake looked down upon them. Seeing that the attack was useless, the rough immortal emperor suddenly raised 2 more flags in his hand. He quickly waved the flags and then threw them on the ground. The 2 flags were spinning rapidly on the ground, and a yin and yang halo appeared instantly. The aperture becomes larger and larger as the flag rotates, filling the barrier of the little snake cloth in one breath. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 558. Chapter 558 Lianji Yin and Yang Formation. In an instant, the environment in the barrier suddenly changed. On one side, there was a gloomy wind, which made people feel unsteady. It also penetrated into the body and quickly devoured the immortal energy in the body. Those with low cultivation levels can be swallowed up by the yin qi in less than a few dozen breaths, leaving only a skeleton. On the other side, the scorching temperature seems to be drying people alive, and it is suffocating. There is also an explosive breath rushing into the sea of consciousness, making people want to destroy the world and destroy the world. Yuan and the others only felt the power of the yin-yang array for a moment, but that was nothing more than that, so they took the little snake into the space. Outside, the rugged immortal emperor could only activate the formation flag, but not control it. The flag formation immediately trapped everyone he brought with him in the formation, including the female fairy. The female fairy has the lowest cultivation level. Without much effort, she turned into a withered skeleton, and even her soul was swallowed up by the yin and yang array. There is no need for Yuan to do anything. The rough immortal emperor and others couldn't stand the violent atmosphere, so they started fighting with their own people. It was a great fight. It seems that this is the only way to make them feel better. Within a moment, the bodies of several of them were in horrible condition, but they still kept hacking at each other tirelessly and painlessly. Until all that is left is a dry skeleton. However, the yin-yang formation is still operating. In other words, the rough immortal emperor did not recognize the yin-yang banner as the main one at all. Yuan was in the space and put away the yin-yang flag as soon as her consciousness moved. She looked at the two flags in her hand, one black and one white. It was just that the fairy weapon was not a divine weapon. If it were a divine weapon, she would still keep it, but the fairy weapon was of little use. This yin-yang flag originally belonged to the Sangxian alliance, and Yuan would not let it be used by Yu Heiran and the others, as it would cause trouble. When you get out of here, sell it and exchange it for 2 fairy stones. When the two came out, there was nothing left except traces of a fight, indicating that a fierce fight had taken place here. Even the bones and space rings of those people were eventually swallowed up by the yin-yang flag. Yuan knew that it was the work of the yin-yang banner's weapon spirit. After erasing the traces of fighting at the scene, she chose another place to live. This group of people must be from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. They lost several masters all at once. The Rogue Cultivator Alliance will definitely send people here. It's just that the members of the Loose Cultivators Alliance behaved like bandits, which really ruined Yuan's outlook on life. 3 days later, people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance came indeed. They came in a top-grade immortal craft spaceship, and there were more than 10 people on board. The leader is actually an immortal in the realm of the Immortal Lord. This lineup is not small. Yuan, Mujukan, and Xiaoshe looked indifferently at the spaceship that stopped 50 feet away from them. The immortal in the Immortal Lord realm is the deputy leader of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. At this time, his consciousness is looking at the little snake. Sure enough, it is a divine beast, or the ancient divine beast soaring snake. Looking at the two monks, they are both immortal kings with good cultivation. It's a pity that these two people will die today, otherwise they could be accepted by the Rogue Cultivators Alliance and serve for the Rogue Cultivators Alliance. He waved his hand, and the dozen or so people on the spaceship surrounded Yuanzhen in the blink of an eye. The Deputy Alliance leader then asked Yuan and the two of them, "It was you who killed the people of this alliance?" Yuan shook her head, "No. They killed each other. How can we say it was them who killed each other?" "Oh." The deputy leader didn't believe it and looked at them with scrutinizing eyes. "It wasn't them who killed it, it was the divine beast who killed it. He still wants to take back the yin-yang flag, who cares who killed it? You should know the purpose of our coming here, right?" "So much nonsense, little snake, it's up to you," Yuan said impatiently. "Isn't it just to test them?" "What is there to test? With the little snake around, I'm afraid I won't be able to kill a few people. The blame is simply that they are too greedy. There are so few returning fairy beasts in the sea. Why are they always staring at her spiritual pet? If it weren't for the blood-devouring demonic insects absorbing and refining the medicinal power, no matter how many people came, they would be killed. Don't they know? It's still these people who think they can solve them and thus gain spiritual pets. Are these people practicing cultivation without cultivating their brains? The deputy leader was startled when he heard Yuan's voice. He still didn't know why the fairy didn't play her cards according to the routine. But he should attack the little snake first. The little snake stepped forward and turned into its true form at the same time, swinging its tail towards the dozen or so people. How could those dozen people be the opponent of the little snake? They had to defend themselves and barely escaped. But after seeing that it was fighting with the deputy leader and could not take care of them, they immediately took action against Yuan and the two. Yuan and Yuan were not stupid. They both turned invisible when they attacked, and then they moved their feet at the same time to avoid the attack. More than a dozen people with cultivation levels above Immortal King attacked them, and if they were not killed, they would be injured. The two of them were not so stupid as to stand there and get beaten. The two of them dodged the attack and counterattacked instantly. Yuan summoned the divine sword, and the immortal power was transferred to the divine sword, and she struck an immortal far away from her with one stroke. A powerful celestial force attacked the immortal with devastating power. The immortal saw a sword appear out of thin air, and the sword slashed at him with a terrifying force. The immortal took steps to escape, but the force seemed to lock him tightly, and he could not move out. He could only watch helplessly. Watch the force split him in half. Even the soul was split in half, and the immortal died like this. Yuan killed one person and turned to attack another person. The other person had already fled when he saw this. You can become invisible, but whoever you want to kill can still run away. These two people are so evil. Who doesn't know that after becoming invisible, they can definitely reveal their location by using their magical power? But they don't know what kind of secret skills they have to prevent their location from being exposed. Such powerful gods can't even find it? Then don't run for your life. With the sect disciples, most of the sect disciples are united and cohesive, and will not abandon their companions or run away when their leader is around. The Alliance of Loose Cultivators was originally an organization among the loose immortals in the immortal world. Most of them believed in individualism and did not care about the life and death of other companions. A dead deist friend is worse than a dead deist friend. Escape is more important. So they would not let Yuan and the two of them cut each other off at will. In the end, except for the dead immortal, everyone else had already escaped. Even the deputy leader has fled. He can't defeat the little snake. That day, his disciples came to borrow the yin-yang flag and said that the person who helped them get the life-death flag had a spiritual pet that had been harmed. They wanted to use the yin-yang flag to kill the person and capture the spiritual pet. His heart was moved. Later, when his disciple did not come back but died instead, he personally brought people to see what kind of spiritual pet he was. It turned out to be the ancient flying snake. He couldn't defeat the little snake and used secret techniques to escape. He wanted to go back to get reinforcements and was the leader of the Sangxian alliance. Yuan saw that they had all escaped and did not pursue them. Since he could not finish his pursuit, he gave up. It is expected that people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance will come again, so the two of them left the battlefield and flew deeper into the Dead Sea. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 559. Chapter 559 Poison Tribe People. After the two of them flew for a day, Yuan pointed to the misty area in front of her and asked Mujukan. Her consciousness could not see clearly what it was. Mujukan, what do you think that is? Mujukan was watching, and when he looked with his spiritual consciousness, there was a thick fog in front of him. The thick fog seemed to divide the boundless sea into two. There seems to be a piece of land in the thick fog. Let's go and have a look, see if we have reached the end of the Dead Sea. The two flew to a stop before the thick fog. Wanner, this thick fog is poisonous. Yuan nodded. This poison was not an ordinary poison and they couldn't touch it. Having no choice but to throw the little snake out. When the little snake saw the poison, it flew into the thick fog with a hiss. It took a long time for the little snake to come out. Master, there is a land inside, do you want to go in and have a look? The two looked at each other and nodded. Then they held their breath and activated the divine clothes. When the divine clothes slowly glowed with hazy golden light and enveloped them, they stepped inside. When you enter, you will see that it is basically a wasteland, with a few poisonous plants growing tenaciously. The two of them walked inside, with the little snake leading the way. It liked the poisonous gas very much and inhaled it while flying. Mujukan, this looks like a swamp. When the two of them had traveled more than 100 miles, they saw many swamps and more poisonous plants. There are also many poisonous insects and beasts. The two stopped and watched from a distance. The poisonous mist here is so poisonous that the two of them can only see with their eyes, not their spiritual senses. Just as the two men stared at their surroundings, several arrows were shot at them. The two of them quickly escaped. Who is trespassing on the holy place? After the two people dodged, several more figures flew over and stood in mid-air looking at them. The little snake suddenly transformed into its own body to protect the two of them. Yuan saw that the little snake was so vigilant, thinking that the person coming was not simple. Little snake is wary not because of how high their cultivation level is, but because they are cultivating this poisonous immortal energy. If you take action, you will hurt someone. Mujukan cupped his hands and said, "We came to the Dead Sea to practice. We didn't know that this is the territory of the nobles and there will be many disturbances." "Oh, the immortals outside." "Yes. You are quite capable. The immortals outside have never come to our holy clan. You have violated our rules. You should punish yourself." One of them pointed at the two of them with a long bow. "Suicide. What kind of holy clan are you? I think you are a poisonous clan." "A few poisonous people are so arrogant," Yuan snorted coldly. "Let them kill themselves if they open their mouths. Think they have no fighting power in this place full of poisonous gas? Joke. I really don't know how deep the sky and the earth are." As soon as Yuan became angry and her consciousness moved, more than a dozen blood-eating demonic insects appeared in front of them. Xiao 11, destroy those ignorant things for your master. One of the blood-eating demonic insects rubbed against her body and said, "Okay, master." With that said, Xiao 11 flew away at lightning speed, swung his long tail, and caught those few people who only knew how to release the poisonous immortal power. "Open your mouth and take a breath," and several people disappeared. Zioxy swallowed a few people, smacked his lips, flew over, and rubbed against Yuan again. "Is it delicious? Tasty? How can it not be delicious if the body is full of poisonous immortal power?" The little snake, he forgot that it can actually swallow these people. "Let's go in and take a look," Yuan said, putting the little snake into the space, leaving Xiao 11 as a mount, and took them to fly in. The rest of the blood-eating demonic insects followed. After entering, some houses will appear, and gradually there will be a town, which is quite large. It's similar to the immortal cultivation city outside. They can't use their spiritual consciousness, and they can't tell the cultivation level of those people. I never imagined that there is such a place deep in the Dead Sea. Well, let's be careful. Mujukan nodded. The people of this tribe are not simple, and even people from the outside fairy world dare not set foot here. There are also poisonous cultivators out there, and there are also people who are not afraid of poison. From what that person says, this place is very cool. Yuan nodded and sent a message to Xiao 11 to fly carefully. Zioxy slowed down and flew over the city, flying towards a mountain that looked like Optimus Prime. Master, there is someone on the top of the mountain. Do you want to fly over? Before he arrived, Xiao 11 sent a message to Yuan. Is there anyone there? Is he practicing? No, it's like guarding something. Guard things, let's go and take a look, let's enter the space, Yuan said, and entered the space with everything. In the space, Yuan looked through the boundary gate. On the top of the towering mountain, there was a 3-foot-tall dark green poisonous plant breathing poisonous gas like a human being. The leaves are as big as a palm, really like a human palm, and the stem is as thick as 2 fingers. Yuan searched in her mind what kind of plant this was. While she was thinking hard, she suddenly saw a man flying up, pouring out many poisonous insects and beasts from a storage space, and throwing them around the poisonous plant. At first, the ordinary poisonous plant shook happily for a few times. The palm-sized leaves suddenly became larger, like a human hand, rolling up the poisonous insects and beasts. In the blink of an eye, the poisonous insects and beasts were swallowed up by the leaves. Yuan looked at it with wide eyes. She had rarely seen Yaezai so cruel. Do you want to adopt him as a spiritual pet? Yuan thought of what the god of thieves had said, that her wood magic would be much more powerful if it was combined with demonic plants. She took another look at the ugly poisonous plant and felt that it was too ugly and that it still ate meat. It simply ate immortal stones and spiritual objects, and she even kept them. Think about it and give up. He returned directly to the fairy world. The blood-eating demonic insects have devoured those ancestral elixirs and are about to advance to the next level. What we found this time was an uninhabited desert. After Mujukan set up the formation, Yuan threw the blood-eating monster insects out to escape the tribulation. On the other side, the deputy leader of the Sangxian Alliance returned to the Sangxian League, and he went directly to see the leader. The main cultivation level of the Sangxian Alliance is in the middle stage of the Immortal Lord. Except for the Immortal Emperor, who has a higher cultivation level than him, he is considered to be at the top of the Immortal World. The realm of the Immortal World is divided into 9 major realms. Starting from human immortals, they are Earth Immortals, Heavenly Immortals, True Immortals, Immortal Kings, Immortal Sects, Immortal Emperors, Immortal Monarchs, and Immortal Lords. After the Immortal Lord has achieved great perfection, he can break the shackles. Ascend to the Divine Realm. The leader of the Sangxian Alliance heard what the deputy leader said and saw the image of the little snake that the deputy leader had transformed into. The leader of the Sangxian Alliance was a little moved. Decided to go and have a look. This time the Alliance leader and deputy Alliance leader brought 10 people from the Immortal Emperor realm. When we got there, we saw no one and were attacked by sea beasts. They were a group of highly cultivated people, so the sea beasts retreated without getting any advantage. The leader of Sangxian Alliance saw no one, so he asked the deputy leader what was going on. The deputy leader didn't know what was going on. According to their speed, it was impossible to get out of the Dead Sea, and they didn't encounter it. Did he go inside? He said, Alliance leader, why don't you catch a sea beast and ask? The leader of the Sangxian Alliance nodded, raised his hand and formed claws with 5 fingers, and he immediately grabbed a sea beast. Say, has anyone seen them? End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 560. Chapter 560 The Poison Clan Attacks. The deputy leader immediately waved the image of 2 people and 1 snake. The sea beast was very frightened at this moment. He glanced at the image and pointed toward the depths of the Dead Sea with trepidation. You really went inside, you're very brave. The leader of the Sangxian Alliance exerted his strength, and the sea beast returned to the west. He threw it to a subordinate to put it away. After that, with a wave of his hand, he led his subordinates deeper into the area. When they reached 10,000 miles, the leader of the Sangxian alliance made a gesture and everyone stopped and took precautions. In the blink of an eye, he was greeted by about 20 people in black clothes flying across from him. Their aura looked very strange. The leader of the Sangxian alliance waved his hand and wanted to lead a group of subordinates to bypass the group of people. Although he acted arrogantly, he was also very knowledgeable at times. Otherwise he wouldn't have survived until now. Boom boom boom. Just as they were taking a detour, more than 20 men in black attacked them. Attack. The leader of the Sangxian alliance is angry. Damn it, he has spared his mercy. Those birdmen still dare to attack them. Who is he, the Sangxian alliance, afraid of? The subordinates heard their leader calling for attack and immediately launched an attack. When did the Sangxian alliance ever be so tolerant? As long as they don't want to kill anyone, no one dares to actively provoke them. The poisonous humans over there were originally out to seek trouble for the monks outside. The monks outside not only broke into the Holy Land, but also killed their own people. This is a naked provocation. Since this balance has been broken, it is time for their poisonous human race to be born. So the two parties started a fierce fight. Huh, is this a poisonous cultivator? The leader of the Sangxian alliance finally discovered something was wrong after one move. Those people were not at a high level of cultivation, and the immortal power they used was poisonous. Cannot confront this kind of people head on. He has no intention of getting too entangled with them. He just needs to do business first. Stop. Hold him loudly. The people below heard the leader shouting and immediately retreated. The poisonous humans are having a great time beating them. It doesn't matter how advanced these monks are, they are still unable to resist their poisonous skills. Beat. The poisonous human race did not give the Sangxian alliance a chance. They took advantage of the victory and pursued it. The poison race launched another fierce attack. The leader of the Sangxian alliance is not a coward. He has been beaten up by others, yet he still acts like a fool. Sacrifice the immortal weapon and start the fight. For a time, the sky above the Dead Sea became dark, and all kinds of magical weapons and magic were flying all over the sky. The sea beasts in the sea shunned one after another to avoid the disaster of the fish in the pond. An hour later, except for the leader of the Sangxian alliance, a dozen others were poisoned to varying degrees. And it's quite poisonous. These people are the elites in the alliance and cannot afford to lose. The leader of the Sangxian alliance immediately called a halt. The poisonous humans on the opposite side were not able to pick up any good, and more than a dozen people were killed or injured. It can be said that the loss was heavy. The leader quickly took the remaining people back to report the matter. The leader of the Sangxian alliance also took his subordinates back to the Sangxian alliance to heal the wounds and detoxify the poisons. The loose immortal alliance thought that this matter was over. Unexpectedly, 3 days later, the poison human race brought a large number of poisonous people to the immortal cultivation city, and the city was filled with poisonous immortal power. For a time, there were countless casualties in the city. The poisonous humans immediately occupy the city and then continue to the next city. This matter became more and more serious, and more immortals died. It was the power of the immortal realm who stopped the poison tribe from slaughtering the immortal realm wantonly. However, the two parties are only in a stalemate. When the immortal emperor knew about this, he immediately issued an order to recruit alchemists to check the poisons of the poison tribe and refine antidote pills as soon as possible. I don't know what kind of poison the poison tribe members released, and ordinary detoxifying elixirs can't cure it at all. Otherwise, how could the monks in the immortal world be unable to fight back and suffer heavy losses? Dabeo saw the immortal order and rushed over with Urbeo. On the other side, Yuan and the two did not know that a war broke out in the fairy world because of them, and countless monks in the fairy world were killed and injured. It will be 5 years until they return to the fairy world. In the past 5 years, the Poison Clan members have almost come out in full force and have successively occupied more than a dozen cities. They have seen the prosperity and vastness of the immortal world, and they also know that there are so many cultivation resources outside, and there are so many fairies. They never want to go back to that prison-like place. When Yuan and the two came out of the gate, they happened to be near a city not far from the Dead Sea. She wanted to exchange for some fairy stones. The blood-eating monsters had spent all her fairy stones through these tribulations. Mujukan, why is the air filled with poisonous gas? We didn't go to the wrong place, right? Yuan was surprised. The vegetation in the mountain forest was basically withered. The strong fairy energy was filled with poisonous gas. She thought she was visiting the place where the poisonous tribe members lived. Waner, no, these are the poison tribe members, they have come to the fairy world. Come to the fairy world, Yuan was shocked. It was okay for the poison tribe to come to the fairy world. How could the people from the fairy world be the opponents of the poison tribe? Yuan immediately released the little snakes and the blood-eating demonic insects, telling them to rush to find out the news. The little snake went out and came back within half a stick of incense, and then the blood-eating demonic insects also came back. Little snake, master, it's terrible, those cities are all filled with people from the poison clan, and they have taken over many of the cities that cultivate immortals. Yuan's heart trembled. She wondered if it was because they broke into their territory and killed their people that caused the trouble. If so, then their sin was huge. Immediately, Yuan said, let's go to the city and have a look. Mujukan nodded. Yuan collected the little snake and other blood-eating monster insects and asked Xiao 11 to fly them to the city. After arriving, the two of them hid themselves in the city. As expected, the city is full of poison people, and they are living like monks here. Yuan suddenly became furious. She immediately took the little snake Mujukan into the space and asked Jimin to find the leader of the poison tribe. She could actually release the blood-eating demonic insects to devour all the poison tribe members. What she meant was to find the leader of the poison tribe and talk to them first. If they didn't evacuate on their own, there was no need to leave. After all, she is not the kind of cruel person. If she kills her, the poison clan will probably be wiped out. Search every city occupied by the poisonous humans in the small world, and finally find their clan leader in a city closest to the people in the fairy world. He is also the supreme leader of the poison tribe. This is a poison tribesman who has reached immortal level. He is currently discussing with the poison tribesman to attack the next city. Yuan and Mujukan's little snakes and blood-eating monster insects suddenly appeared in front of them. Who are you? Dujan, the leader of the poison clan, glanced at this huge lineup and asked in surprise. He set up a barrier, and these people and spiritual pets appeared in his barrier out of thin air. The other poisonous humans saw two fairy kings, a small snake, and hundreds of small insects. They didn't take them seriously and immediately surrounded them. You don't care who we are, and you have to go back to your hometown within 3 days, or else we will destroy your entire poisonous human race. Yuan Ke would not talk nonsense to him and would explain it directly. End of this chapter.